This turned off for some reason. Just had to turn my mic on. Should have done all these things first before I started streaming. It's all good though. Let me just make sure my audio is working now. Okay, let's see how this works. Let's see how the sound's working. Hello everybody, how are you doing today? My name is Vasu Nepali. If you're new here, or Nepal V, either is fine. If you're new here, definitely check my hit the follow button. If you're watching this on YouTube, definitely subscribe. Yeah, that's how I'm going to start this today. Alright, so before we begin, before we get into section 2 of this course, or actually section 3, because section 1 was just like one video, and it only took like a minute to finish, unsurprisingly. But section 2 took like an hour and 2 minutes. This one's a longer one, takes an hour and 13 minutes. Now, by the way, that's when I say an hour and 13 minutes, that's the length of actual time it takes to complete a section. But yeah, it'll probably take me longer because I want to take my time and actually learn the basics of pixel art. Now, before I do that, I want to jump into looking at Pixel Power's portfolio. We were talking yesterday, and he has a bunch of assets that he might actually create. Now, you might be wondering, what's the point of even learning this yourself if you have somebody to help you make this? Well, for one, I need to learn to convey my idea. Well, it's a good idea to know how to do this stuff, right? And also, it's a good idea to, like, if you actually have some experience in creating pixel art, it's easier to convey your ideas. So let's look at a couple of these and see what we have here. So the first part here is trees. They're just trees. This is for like a platformer, presumably. Except for this one, except for this log cabin. I think that's a log cabin. So this is not really like a platformer. This is more for like a top-down tile set. You got barrels, you got, a door, a bunch of stuff here. I guess you could use these for a platformer too. But I'm sorry, not a platformer, top-down 2D game. But you need like you need shadows. So yeah, that's why I said this is like for platformers. Okay, so you got medieval fences, ladders. Let's see, what else do we got here? We got I think that's an outhouse. I'm not 100% sure. Baskets and all that other stuff. Okay, so you got a mansion. This is like a townhouse, presumably, or it's kind of hard to tell the size because I can't really zoom in. Okay, so what else do we got here? We got an island, rocks, another island. I don't know, that was like cutting out or something. It's weird. A bunch of interiors. That's the first set of what he's capable of creating. And yeah, I mean, if you're building a medieval style game, this is definitely it. Got a chicken, which, I mean, okay. Okay, so that's his profile picture. You got your heroes. It's a video that plays, and this is the animation that plays for the heroes. You got an NPC made, a bunch of different states. Either of these are NPCs or monsters, or enemies, I guess. You got a dungeon tile set for a top-down game. You got some, like, lab ooze. The game I'm building is, as you know, is a science fiction. So if you're Pixel, what's your name exactly? Well, I just met you yesterday. Pixel Power, you're watching this. I'm looking for something like this, but a more sci-fi pack, like an underground lab. So essentially, the asset pack I'm working with now doesn't have a clear wall, and so it looks like you're. Actually, it does. I just don't know how to use it, but I don't. I still don't like that one. I'd still like a custom one made. But yeah, this is like these are like walls and stuff, and that's cool. Okay, so then you got your street corner, which also is interesting. It says more of a modern look. You got your interior of a bedroom. You got your UI pistol. If I didn't know any better, I'd say this is like the Wild West. Let's see. Okay. And yeah, as you can see, the trees are like moving, and you got clear stream, a serene background. Yeah, so you got arcane characters, which I still gotta watch that. This might be more akin to what I'm looking for. Okay. This is Asprite. 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 I don't know how to pronounce it. Asprite. We'll just leave it at that. And he definitely seems to be experienced in that. Man, he has a lot of stuff. Okay, this is the one I probably like. I like this guy's post. He reached out to me. This is the image I liked. I got an interior starship. A dragon? I yeah, I mean if you're watching this, I would love to chat with you a bit more, and yeah, definitely check out my playlist on YouTube if you want to know what kind of game I'm building and how you can help out. I'll send you the relevant links. Okay, so that's enough of that. So let's get back to this. Okay, still worth learning pixel art, but as far as like having somebody help me would be great. So I'm definitely happy about that. Let's continue. Okay, so we're gonna learn today all about ground tile sets. And by the way, I'm only gonna do like half of this because it's a holiday today and I kind of want to relax. So I'm gonna play more. I'm gonna play some Witcher 3 immediately after. So we're gonna be doing. I'm gonna do that silently because my throat's kind of sore. Yeah. Okay, so let's actually, you know what? Now the more I think I can do this during the weekday, since I'm just like copying from a course. I'll use like okay, so I'll do a couple of lectures in the morning because with that pace, I'm pretty sure I'll get this done by the end of the month. But yeah, without any further ado, let's actually begin. So I'm just like thinking about how I want to approach this course, so because I can't show you the stuff because that'll be spoilers. I don't think that really works. Okay, so let's learn about ground tile set.
So now that we've seen some of the basic stuff that goes into working with pixel art, we can take a look at how we can apply those ideas to making pixel arts for our games. And we're going to start off by making a very simple tile set that we could use in, say, a 2D platformer or something like that. So we're drawing a tile set from a side-on view, looking at the ground. For example, I'm sure we've all seen platformer games. Platformer tile set. Let's just quickly look up. You'll see we'll do something like this, where we have a bit of ground and a bit of grass on top. Nice and simple and straightforward. But we'll create all the basic building blocks we need to make them for our own games. So we're going to need, obviously, a larger sheet than what we've used before for our tile set. So what I'm going to do is going to go to File, New, and here in Pixel Edit, I'm going to use some tiles that are 16 by 16. So this is a fairly basic standard size that people use for tile sets.
Okay, so 16 by 16.
Speaking, when you want to make any kind of tiles or anything like that, you want to keep it in multiples of 2. So we've got 16 by 16 here, but we can equally use 32 by 32, 8 by 8, 64 by 64. Just as long as they're even numbers and they're both the same, then it'll make tiling a much more straightforward process. Now you can use different values if you want to, but it's going to make things not as straightforward to deal with. So on this, I'm going to make this have 8 tiles by 8. So we end up with a total image size of 128 by 128.
Oh wait, that's wrong. Hold on. So it's 8 by 8. And so you could actually tell, like, okay, so this is 128. That didn't work. I don't know what happened. Hold on.
And that's the full image we want to use. That's the full dimensions we want to use if we're using this in, say, a different program. So I'm just going to create this, and you'll see, by default...
It didn't really do it. I don't know what happened. Hold on. New. Oh, I did 18. What did I do 18? I meant 8. There. There we go. That's what I was looking for.
That sets me up with this big document here, and it's all broken down into a little grid lines that I can draw in. So I can use them as a guide to know that's the edge of the block as we go along. Now, of course, if you're not using Pixel Edit, if you're using a different program, you might not have the same options available to you when you start a new file. For example, if we go into Photoshop, if I go to create a new file, and we set the width and height to be 128 pixels, if I just start this, now I've got my grid on there, but if I just turn this off for a second, so you might create your file, and you start off here with just a blank screen, and you're like, oh no, that's not the same, I don't know how to draw all the pixels, how do I know where all my blocks go? So what you do is go to View.
Hold on, I messed something up. I messed this up. File. New. Yeah, that's what I wanted initially.
Up here, and then Show Grid, and that'll get you a grid. It might not be the right size though, so we'll have to go to Edit, Preferences, and then Guides, Grids, and Slices. And then in here we set grid line every 16 pixels. So that's exactly what I have. You could, if we set it to 24, you can see it automatically adjusts there. If we set it to 5, we get a whole bunch of them. But we want to keep it at 16, and that way you'll know how to draw within that. And then, as another example, here's graphic scale. We can go to File, New, and here we just have the option of what size we want to make it. So we'll say 128 by 128, like that. We get our little image here. And if I go up here, I can turn on a custom grid like this, and we can pick whichever size we want. So we'll go 16 by 16. So if I, I have my zoom on, so I can zoom in, and you can see there's our grid, and we can zoom in and pick that and do whatever we want to do. So very simple and very straightforward. All we want to do is set up this grid so that we can start drawing some tiles and start making a simple tile set. So what we're going to do is create a nice and simple tile set with some dirt on the bottom and some grass on the top of it. So when we think about the tiles that we're going to use, and I had opened a platformer example here. So when you think about these, for example, something like this one here, you can see most of the tiles have this main kind of central thing that just repeats around all the other tiles. And then say the grass at the top is slightly different, the edges will be slightly different, and the bottom of them will also be slightly different. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to take that same idea and apply it to our own tile set. So we're going to start off with a nice central dirt texture that we're going to use. So we'll draw it in the middle kind of over here. So let's pick a brown color. So to pick a brown, we go to orange, make it a little bit more yellowy, and then we go in the dark kind of range here, and we end up with a kind of brown color. That's not quite brown enough. Let's go a little bit darker, or a little bit more red. So we put that in there, and then what we do is we'll draw in one simple tile shape like this. So that's
actually what you could do is could literally create a square.
One nice 16 by 16 shape, and I'm going to erase that, and we fill this in.
I guess fill it in.
So this will be our central tile. So we know that we're going to want to have all the tiles above. So we'll imagine this is the center, right? Let's actually just quickly draw in a rough diagram of what we're going to do. So we're going to have, this will be our dirt in the middle. Then at the side, we want to have a kind of jagged edge. On the other side, we also want to have a jagged edge. At the top, we're going to want to have some grass. So we'll just put some rough grass up here. And at the bottom, we're
We don't want it to go overboard. Let's try that again. I messed that up. Jagged. And I guess grass would be up there. I'll just pick any green for now, really.
We're going to want to have another kind of jagged edge because we got
another jagged edge.
some dirt coming out the bottom. So what we'll do is we'll use this same bit of brown here and we'll just copy that up to here and over to here and over to here. And then in the corners, we'll want to have basically a combination of this one at the side. So we'll have the same thing going in the bottom here. This one at the bottom over here. So we'll copy the same bottom stuff and over here and up the side and the same up here. And then some grass up the top. And that'll provide us our basic block. And that's the kind of the simple building blocks of making a tile set.
Oh. I don't know why I keep going over that edge.
It's actually it's much more straightforward. So technically all you will really need to draw will be this central tile set and a bit of grass on top. And what we'll do is just take some of it away from the sides and for the bottom and just repeat that. So technically all you will really need to draw here and over here and over here. And then in the corners we'll want to have basically a combination of this one at the side. So we'll have the same thing going in the bottom here. This one at the bottom over here. So we'll copy the same bottom stuff. And over here and up the side and the same up here. And then some grass up the top.
Don't really need that extra kind of.
And that'll provide us our basic block. And that's the kind of the simple building blocks of making a tile set. It's actually it's much more straightforward. So technically all you will really need to draw will be this central tile set and a bit of grass on top. And what we'll do is just take some of it away from the sides and for the bottom and just repeat that grass texture on the very top. So let's take a look at our central image here. Well, if we're going to have this dirt block in the middle, we don't want it to just be a brown blob because that's not very interesting for anybody. So what we'll do is we'll actually start this off with a slightly darker color. Now that I look at it, so we'll fill it in with a darker color. And what we're going to do is select a lighter color. Go to our pen tool. We'll use our magic wand to make sure that we stay within this box. We don't want to go drawn anywhere else. And what we're going to do is take our lighter color and we're just going to draw a few little circles.
Circles.
In the middle like this.
Well, it looks a little dark, I guess. Why don't we try something lighter? I don't know, like something like that.
Now, we don't want to just have them in the middle because if we just have them in the middle, the same tile is going to look incredibly boring and it'll be incredibly obvious what the tile is. Just for an example, I'm just going to use one of Pixel really handy built-in controls. We don't need to worry about just yet, but it's this tile copier here. So I'm just going to copy this and draw it like this. Now, if you were to look at this, if we turn off the grid, and you were to look at that in a game, you would immediately go, oh, well, it's pretty obvious that each one of these is a tile and it's just repeating as it goes. What you don't ever want players to actually see that repeating tile incredibly obviously. You want to blend things together. So I'm going to go show our grid again. and go back to our draw tool. We're not going to worry about the tool I just used. That was just for an example because it's kind of an advanced feature specifically to Pixel Edit. So we don't actually need to use that right now. But what we're going to do is say, okay, well, we don't want it to look like these little blobs are just in the middle. So we're going to have them overlap onto other tiles. So say, for example, here, we've got this big empty space here and an empty space here. So what we'll do is we'll draw a little bit of a block there. And then where this pixel is, we'll follow that down in a line, make sure it joins here. And then we can draw another little one going up like that. So now we know that these two here will connect and they'll overlap onto different tiles. So it won't look as obvious. It's actually a little bit, I want to make it slant a little bit more. So we'll go like that. And then what we'll do is do the same thing over to the other side. So here, where it joins, we'll drag this over to here. And we know that this pixel is right here. And I'll just move it up one just to fit with the little image that we've drawn there. And we'll draw this all the way down to the bottom like that. And then over here, we can see, oh, well, this block here should match up with this one. And we can see this one down here should match up with this one. So we'll pull that in there like that. We'll actually put that little one as a darker color. So we'll stick with a kind of a see-through block there. And we'll make this block now spill down onto here like this. And we'll add another one over here that pushes over to the other side as well. Like that. And then we'll just have this one here. So if you can imagine that these tiles now should flip over to the other side. And how we can test that is by selecting our whole tile that we just created using our Magic Wand tool here. We can copy it with Control and C or Edit Copy. We'll copy that and then we'll paste it with Control and V or Control. Where are we? Paste. There we are. Control and V. And I'm just going to click and drag that over to here. Paste another one over to here and up here.
Kind of does blend in.
And down here. And we basically just paste it all around in a block of 9, like that. Okay, so looking at it, we can see. Very strange. Why did this one?
I think I get the gist here. Let's try this again. I think I know what it, the idea is to create like an outline of a sort and then fill in your block title. It's all just like, you know, drawing patterns. No. I overshot that one. Hold on. I don't know why I'm coughing so much. Alright, we just need a piece that's there. Oh, sorry. Oh. Huh. I don't want to contiguous.
It seems like we got offset there somehow, somewhere along the way. Oh, I pasted an extra one in here by accident.
I don't think I did.
Let me just
I might
fix
have.
that up. I pushed this one into the wrong position. I was wondering, it looked a little bit messed up there. So let's just pop these back in like this. There we go. So now if I undo this, or sorry, deselect that, and we'll turn off our tile grid. Now, if you're to look at this within a game, it's not obvious that this is a repeating texture. You can see the same elements repeating, like these guys here. You can see repeat, repeat, but it doesn't immediately stand out to your eyes as a repeating texture. And that's what we really want to have going on. So now that we've done that, let's actually make this look a little bit better. So I'm going to turn back on my tile grid. And now think about what we covered a little bit earlier with shading. So if we imagine that this is some dirt in the ground, and these are kind of like ripples of dirt sticking out, or like clumps of dirt or stones or something like that, then these things are sticking out from the ground, and these dark bits are kind of main part of the ground. So if these things are sticking out, then we want them to have a bit of a 3D feel to them. So if we want to have them have a 3D feel, we need to add some shading. So, as a general rule of thumb, as we covered in the first section, the light in most games is coming down from the top right. That's kind of the typical basic illumination that you would see in games. And unless you have like a strong visual reason for your game not doing that, it's an expected convention that you will see within most platform games. So we're going to assume that, again, the light is coming from the top right. So any of these stones need to have a bit of a shine on the top right of them. So let's do that. Let's select that color, and we'll go into our color selector over here. We'll brighten it up a little bit, and we'll just add onto the top right of each of these a little bit of a shine. You don't need to go too overboard. You don't need to coat the whole edge with some pillow shading, as we discussed before. We don't want to do that. But we just kind of get like the top corners of these various bits and add a bit of shine to them, just to add a little bit of 3D-ness to them. So I don't know why I did this one here. We want to stick to only doing this within our box. So only these top edges will have those highlights. That's perfectly fine. So let's do the opposite then and go do our shadows on the other side. So we'll pick our color, make sure that we have our dark color here and we have our light color as we look over here, and we'll pick a color between the two of them. So roughly this one here. I'm going to add a bit of shading. Now our shading will actually do a little bit thicker than our highlights were, because shadows are usually a bit thicker than shiny bits of light are, especially on any object that's kind of shiny. Now I spilled my shadow over there onto the next tile just as a way to get a feel of how it should go. So I can copy these little bits that I just drew up here, and I know it will fit together well when I match my tiles up. So for example, I'll do the same with this object here. Let's just shade this one here as if it was a whole object, and then I can say, okay, well then I know that on my main sprite this one should be filled in. In the top corner, this whole section should be filled in, and in the top corner, oh sorry, that should be the top left corner, but in the top right corner, this one should be filled in. So let's just finish it off by shading this guy here, and that should pretty much do it for shading those little rocks. So let's see how that looks. We'll copy and paste this whole thing here. So what I'll do is just do one to the side and one to the other side.
I guess the whole idea here is to
this
make
whole
this
line
look more 3D.
just up to here and down to here. So again, we'll turn off our grid just to see how it looks. And you can see already this feels like a bit more of a 3D object. There's one other thing we want to do, because although we've set up these rocks to be standing out a little bit from our background, in the background there's still a huge amount of kind of dark or single color shading going on. So we'll turn back on our grid and zoom back in, and what we'll do is we'll assume that these rocks are casting a shadow onto the background texture. So we'll take our background color, we'll make it slightly darker, like this. That might actually be a little too dark. So what we're going to do is we're assuming that these rocks are throwing a shadow down into the bottom left corner. So even though the rocks themselves have a shadow, they're also casting a shadow onto the rocks below. So we do this. But it won't be a very thick shadow because they're very close to the ground. They're only just jutting out of the ground slightly. So we'll just kind of add some shading in like that. Actually, that's probably going too far. like this. You don't necessarily want it, again, you don't want it to follow the exact contours of the object. You want it to kind of be a bit random, because dirt sticking out of the ground isn't necessarily uniform. It doesn't all flow in a perfect line. You get weird random bits and things sticking up. So we draw along all these edges like this, and we'll just see how these look. Yeah, so I will put this same shading up here and one over here. Let's copy on that. What other edges do we have? So there's no shading below this guy here. We added one there, but there's no shading here like that. I think that should look okay. Let's just see how will that look. Yeah, we'll get rid of that one, I think. Yeah, so we'll get rid of this one too. Again, it's about testing these things out and seeing how they look. We'll put a bit of shade. Actually, we'll draw our shading here just to see. Yeah, I think like that makes sense. And we'll see there's a bit of shading here. And then we'll add a little bit of random dots into the ground as well. So we'll take our dark color and just throw a couple of random...
Let me add some dark shading. A little darker than that, maybe.
random bits of texture into the environment. So we just see these random bits of color, just filling it in, just to break up the ground a little bit and make it seem like a more natural bit of ground texture. So you can immediately see, even just looking at this section as opposed to the rest of it over here, that this is now standing out a lot more. So if I'll copy and paste this whole section here. So copy it, paste it in over here, paste it in, drag it over here, and I'll just select the whole line, copy it, paste it in up here, and back down here. So you can see now, looking at this, it all of a sudden looks like a bit more of a texture. And looking at it now, as we discussed previously, don't ever feel committed to anything that you do. Don't ever feel like you need to always have that in there. Because I'm looking at this and thinking, I don't think that these little random bits are actually adding much to the image. I think they're taking away more so than they are adding to it. So I'm going to remove some of them, but not all of them. So we'll try it again. It's always a process of doing one thing, seeing how it looks, and then repeating it until you're happy with how your finished tiles will look like. Because nobody gets these things right first try. It's always about trying and trying and repeating and seeing how you can improve it as you go. So there you go. We turn off the tile grid. And I think that texture works pretty well for what we wanted to do. It looks like some nice bits of dirty ground. And as you can, if we do a quick little, I'll just copy this for a second and I'll just fill this back in to what we had without doing that texturing. So if we, do this. So we started out with this very simple template, very simple and straightforward. And we ended up with a very textured and real looking situation just by adding some simple shading and some simple texture to our ground in between these rocks.
Okay, so I'll stop here for today. Tomorrow I'll come back and finish. So in the next video we're going to do adding grass tiles and making the bottom tiles. So I'm assuming that means like drawing the top, which is the grass, and then finishing it up with the bottom tiles. By the way, I think this is all like for platformer games. Not 100% sure. Alright, I'm gonna go and I'll be back in like a little bit. I promise that I actually will. I actually got The Witcher 3, cleared all my save files so I can like replay it from scratch. I like the only time I ever like mod a game is is when I have to like when the game's like super old and I want to make it look more modern, but The Witcher 3 is already great. So, yeah, there's that. Alright, you guys. I'll see you later. Gonna end the stream here. Gonna come, like, as far as pixel art goes, I'm gonna stop here for now. We're gonna do like a little bit every morning, and I think we can finally finish the course if you keep up the pace. So, yeah. Thanks for watching. See you later.